Okay, well, we've been working on the tunnel here and the floor before putting the motor back in and the transmission underneath the tunnel there. The tunnel was nasty, had all kinds of bumps and creases and dents and you name it. The tunnel and the floor right around it. I don't know how that. It looked like the car was upside down. A bunch of stuff fell on it. You know, it was all pushed up somehow or other. But anyway, we've spent some time working on it, and we've got it so that it's pretty good at this point. You know, two-man stuff, one underneath, one on top, one with a dolly, one with a hammer, and then switching around as needed and shrinking as needed and that kind of stuff. So as I say, at this point, put some primer on that, and it's going to look pretty good. It feels pretty smooth. So we're about ready at this point to put that back in and see what it looks like. See how that shifter is going to work out with the hole we put in the floor here. And how this recess is going to look around the pants. So we'll show you that when we get there. Later. Hello. Well, we're back at the Blue Heinz garage, working on the time machine. And we've kind of made a big step here this morning. Got the motor back in, so now we can see the result of all the modifications we've been doing. There's that recess that we created, and you can see how nice that worked, the amount of clearance that provided. And we did find when we had the motor sitting on the floor that there is enough space here to get the pan off, because on these motors almost nothing hangs down below the pan rail. When you remove the pan, all the innards are up inside the pan rail. See, we got it bolted in on the motor mounts. Here's the clearance we ended up with on the firewall. That's the tight side. And right now we're starting to work on the clutch linkage. There's that bracket we were building. So now we can do a little more, what?
We're going to whittle it down.
Whittling on that, yeah.
Yeah,
So
we're going to make sexy.
We left the bracket long because we didn't know exactly where, level across from the chassis mount was. So now we can determine that. And the other thing is, there's the transmission mount, shifter opening that we created in the floor. Scott laid out. You notice the tunnel is all massaged. The floor is massaged.
We're going to start referring to me as Lucky.
So there, some nice advances. See ya. Okay, so now that we were able to get a reference on this from the mount that's attached to the frame, this is what we're going to do with that bracket. You see, there's the cross shaft, the
Bell crank.
bell crank. Thank you. I can never remember that word. So we've put the stud in there. See, again, referenced off of that mount on the frame. So that's how we're going to cut the bracket. You see the marks there. All right, later. Let's see. So there's the finished product. Ta-da! All right, stop moving it around.
Sorry.
Okay, see the other side. That's the way it's going to mount on the motor. Okay, bye. Okay, well, you can see here, yesterday afternoon, Scott came over and we welded in 18 of these hole patches that I have been setting up here. I've made the patches, put some magnets under a lot of them, the bigger ones, the smaller ones. We The smaller ones we kind of swedged in. I've got a Whitney punch, and I used the appropriate size drill and drilled those out, and we put the little plug in, and then when you make the little plug, it deforms it tiny, so it shrinks it a little bit. And when you put it in the hole and back it up with a dolly and swedge it, essentially, hammer it, it swedges it in and fastens it in the hole. It stretches it a little bit when you flatten it out, and it holds itself into the hole, and you weld it. That works pretty well. So like I said, there's right now this section forward, there was 18 holes that we filled yesterday. So now there's a whole bunch more. You see where these tapes are in the back and a few other places. I don't know, there's about 8 or 9 of them, more of them here under the back seat. You explain to me and we'll both know why there's so many. But there was a ton. Anyway, making progress. Got a few more things to do today. Some of this other stuff here under the dash is going to go away. That mount there for the steering column is leaving. The stuff here that's there's more holes and nuts that we aren't using. Some of that's handbrake hardware that we aren't using anymore. E-brake hardware that we aren't using anymore. So, whoops, what am I doing here? There's more stuff to go away. You see all these holes that are outlined here. There's more fastened nuts and holes that got to get plugged up. So there's a lot more of this to go. So it's stuff that I can do while Scott's at work. It's preparation, stuff that takes a lot of time. Making the patches for all those holes is probably, I don't know, at least a day, maybe a day and a half's worth of work that can get done while Scott's at work. And then when he comes and welds, then when he comes and welds, it's almost done. All you got to do is grind it smooth. So anyway, one of the next things we're going to do, making this clutch linkage, figured out we're going to modify the clutch fork, straighten it out, and not extend it, but straighten it out, making the linkage a little better, a little easier, and hope maybe, I'm not sure we're making more room for headers, or hopefully not killing any header room because it's tight. Well, we need to remove the motor and remove so we can get the fork. You can't get the fork out of that assembly, the clutch fork out of that assembly with the motor transmission assembled. So the motor's going to come back out again so we can remove the clutch fork and modify it and put it back in and then reassemble the motor in the chassis one more time. Anyway, fun. Bye. Okay, well, we spent some time on this again yesterday afternoon. Continuing with all the plugging up all the holes in the floor, all the extra holes in the floor, and at this point, everything that I have ready, almost everything I have ready, is done. Right now we have 26 holes that have been patched in this floor. Done, welded, with patches in this floor. Over there, under and around the pedals, you see the two there where the foot area there, the beveled area there starts. There's two. We removed some stuff that was there. I forgot what was there. Something was bolted there. I think handbrake or e-brake hardware, pulleys and stuff for the e-brake cables. And then up there where you see the dark area, that was where the column mount was. And over there in the far corner, there's like 4 more where we removed some more e-brake hardware stuff. So there's another 10 to go over there. Anyway, this, you can see what this panel looks like. This is how many patches between this is not all of them either, but on the Blue Hinds and on this car so far, that's what that metal that we're using to make the little plugs looks like. And we haven't started on the firewall yet. This is just all the holes that have been done in the floor over the life of this car. We were talking about that yesterday. This car's 4 years old. Yeah, 64 years old, and I was wondering how long it took to put all these holes in this floor, what the history is of why there's so damn many holes in this floor. Anyway, that's where we're at right now with this, this step. Later today, I think we're going to be removing this again to deal with the clutch fork. You got to remove the transmission to access the clutch fork in order to, and we're going to modify that in the course of doing the clutch linkage. We're going to straighten that out. You'll see probably later. Bye. Hello there. Welcome back to Blue Heinz Garage. Currently occupied by the Time Machine. It is 5th of October. What's today? Tuesday. 5th of October. Scott just left. He's been busy. We've both been busy, but mostly him engineering and fabricating linkage for this clutch. You can see here's the cross shaft that mostly he built. It's right now, some of the parts and pieces are tacked together. Some of the stuff is done permanently. The piece coming out of the firewall is from Williams. Classic chassis, Williams classic chassis. I think his name is Mark Williams. I can't remember the first name for sure. The cross shaft, the bell crank, is fabricated by Scott. The piece below that goes to the fork is made by Scott. I'll show you some still pictures of better details of that. And the fork itself has been modified by Scott also. We cut it used to come forward where it came out of the bell housing. It used to come forward probably 1.5 inches. We cut that off, added pieces on it so it was the same. It became the same length it was from the factory, but straight, no forward bend on it. So we had to gain as much length for that adjustable piece on the bottom as possible because we had to offset it. In the current configuration with the LS motor, it's about the clutch fork and that section of the bell housing, because of the way the motor sits and the fact that the LS motors are deeper. The crankshaft itself, I think, is lower at a lower level. The clutch fork ends up being almost 2 inches lower than it was in the small block. So that bottom shaft with the adjustment down there, we had to make an offset from where it was from the factory. It's about 1 7/8 inches, I think, lower than it was in the original classic Chevy. Again, to repeat, I think I've probably said this before, Scott did not want to go with the hydraulic clutch that a lot of people use, because then he would have to have 2 master cylinders on the firewall or try and bury one underneath the dashboard, which makes maintaining the fluid level and all of that stuff a real nightmare. There isn't a lot of room when you get these dashboards together, all the gauges in and all the wiring in and everything. There isn't a lot of room to work under there, so that would be a real nightmare. But anyway, we just finished this and it works quite nice. Like I said, we've had to do over 1 or 2 things to get some slop out of them and stuff like that. But with the Heim joints on that bottom piece, that upgrade that he did, that was the biggest do-over of the whole thing. It works really nicely. So I think we could say the clutch linkage is a success. In the process of doing all of that, I did this. This is one of our, little detail engineering type. I did this to see if we could do anything. When we put the clutch linkage together the first time with all the factory style here, with this as the bottom, actually it would go this way. With this as that bottom adjustable piece, you see the adjustment would be here. This would be in the, actually it would go this way. This would be in the fork. This would be on the arm go into the arm on the bell crank. When we did this, it was trying to push the fork down. When you push the pedal, it wanted to push the fork in a downward motion as well as backward, and there was a lot of play in it and everything. It worked okay, but it was doing things we didn't like. So I was doing this. I did this to try and see if maybe two parallel swinging arms would keep this shaft running level, and it does keep it running level, but it does nonetheless with those arms. They're arcing, so they are going to go higher and lower through the course of their arc. So there's no way of getting around that. But anyway, what we decided to do was we took some more measurements, and like I said, he modified the fork so it would accept the Heim. And we got the fork a little better located in the bell housing. So none of that up and down and back and forth stuff is happening. Only the stuff that's necessary to operate the clutch. So we're quite happy with that. So here's some of the excess parts. I think he bought extra Heims probably to make a minimum order or something. He's got some Heims here, I think females it looks like. He had males already. Because you know the Heim comes both ways. You can do the Heim as a male or as a female. And he also changed the throwout bearing. He found a bearing that was adjustable. The length of the bearing itself was adjustable, and that placed the fork right where we wanted it so that it had the correct amount of travel available for like when you need to adjust the clutch as it wears and all of that good stuff. So like I said, I think the clutch now is a success. We've had this motor and transmission in and out of here, I think, just for the clutch itself, at least 4 times. We're getting like a pit crew here to remove and replace this motor. But anyway, that's what it takes. You know, it's just what it takes. So with the clutch in place, now he's got all the stuff that goes in that area except the exhaust. So the next thing that'll have to get, not the very next, but the next thing in that area that's going to have to happen is to create the headers for that area, to get them around the steering box and the clutch linkage and all the good stuff. So that ought to be fun too. But I'm sure, given time, we'll get through that one too. You know. Anyway, he's got steering column here, tilt steering column from I Did It. He's not totally happy with it, and maybe we'll get into that when we start playing with it. I'll show you what that's all about. But anyway, more progress, and like I say, with the clutch linkage done, that was a big hurdle that he was kind of concerned with, and I think we're over it. So talk to you later. Hope you enjoy the video, and thanks always for watching. Wow, easy for me to say. See you later. That all the way to the floor?
That is.
Wow.
Why?
Go ahead, do it one more time. Well, it sure looks like it's working right. Let me...